If you've watched the channel for a while, you know that I love these cars and actually set a cannonball record. This was like the fastest sedan in the world at the time. So racing technology there in your big saloon. Need my cheat sheet here because it was that extensive. The banker's hot rod, as they called it. Hey everyone, and welcome back to DC MotorWerks. My name is Cameron. Today in front of us, we have a 1979 Mercedes-Benz 450 SEL 6.9. And no, this is not my car, but if you've watched the channel for a while, you know that I love these cars and actually set a cannonball record in one. And if you like what you see here, make sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. You can check out our other videos about the allure of the 6.9 and its cannonball prowess. But this is my client's car that he bought last year, and it immediately came here after buying it to make sure it was mechanically perfect for him. And we'll go through that long list of things here in a moment because it was an extensive mechanical restoration for this car. And because it's already had a lot of cosmetic stuff done. It had a repaint done not too long ago. It has the proper Michelin XWX tires. So those are actually V-speed rated 14-inch tires, so proper for all of the exotic and sports cars and high-speed cars of the time period, because this was like the fastest sedan in the world at the time. Looks beautiful in black, just like my personal car, especially with all the trimmings in chrome and bright work and so forth. It's in great shape because of that repaint and everything. The body is super straight, no rust to speak of. Just a beautiful example. Now that it has had that mechanical restoration, just makes it all that much better. If you come around the back here, you see the all-important and special 6.9 badge. And in the US specifically, it was actually marketed just as the 6.9, not a 450 SEL 6.9. So European models will have the 450 SEL over here. And you can see here a homage to Cannonball there with the Cannonball sticker looking into the rising sun out west. As once you get out to the western run, that's pretty much all you can see is the bright red sun in front of your face. But there were multiple runs of 6.9s in period 1979, and then I think there was one, I think it was 1980 or 83, I forget exactly which, but it was actually just 9 minutes behind the winning Jag in the 79 run in a big four-door sedan. And kind of one of the founders of Cannonball, Brock Yates himself, spoke very highly of the 6.9 because at one point in time, he picked one up from Mercedes-Benz corporate in New Jersey when these were new and drove it at high speed, he says, down to Atlanta and took it straight to Road Atlanta here in Brazelton, Georgia, not too far from us, and drove it around the track for an hour straight at full tilt. And was just amazed by the car's performance, that the brakes didn't fade, it didn't seem to sweat at all from that trip. Because these were the next generation of the 6.3 cars with the M100 V8 that originally started in the 600 Grosser back in the early 60s. And what made the 6.9 extra special is that it has a hydropneumatic suspension that was on license from Citroën, the French company, which was famous in like the Deux Chevaux and some of the other DS cars and so forth from that time period. But it is fully hydraulic, no springs at all. It just uses hydraulic cylinders and nitrogen accumulators as the shock absorbing. So it's got height adjustment and everything, and self-leveling. It is a super cool system, which we will showcase on this one because we did go through it as well. But let's go ahead and look at that M100 that I was talking about. Gotta love the hood ornament. It is iconic, the grille shape and everything of this time period. And you just sneak your fingers behind each side there. And that gives you your M100 6.9, which is actually 6.8 liters technically. The Germans like to round that up for whichever reason, but it is a 6.8 liter. And in US form, made 250 horsepower and a little over 360 pound-feet of torque, which these were absolute torque monsters. And to actually fit the M100 in the 116 chassis, they could not use a wet sump oiling system. So these are actually dry sumps. So racing technology there in your big saloon. So you got the oil tank here, and it holds like 11 to 14 liters of oil. It is quite a lot. And here you've got your hydraulic suspension reservoir, and it's fully mechanical, which is super cool. Here's the pump on the engine block there. And this runs at like 170 or so bar. So super high pressure, and you can see it just runs through these tiny hydraulic lines and goes to each four corner to supply fluid, high pressure oil to all the struts. And this is your selection switch here. So here it is currently in the normal mode. And then it also has a lock mode and a raised height mode. And actually the US cars would have like a block on here to prevent the raised height mode, because US regulation at the time was that cars could not have adaptive ride height. But that was easily just removed, which most US cars by this time have been removed so that it can be used. We went through and sealed up the engine, did gaskets and all kinds of things, and it actually had a water pump recently, which is a big deal on these engines. Coming around here, you can also see some new parts like the coolant reservoir, and we corrected all the fittings for the washer fluid reservoir as well. And back here, we have updated the famous ACC2 automatic climate control system that they actually got from Chrysler back in period. It's a very old, complicated system, and there is a updated part there from USCIS makes that, and it's been great in my car, so we put it in this one as well. It just kind of modernizes the electronics and control of that old vacuum system, and you can see all the different vacuum lines and everything here, and here's where it adapts into the new system. So modern electronics to make it more reliable and make more sense in how it works. While we're driving, I'll talk more about all the work we've done, because it was, again, very extensive. But let's go ahead and jump inside and check it out, and we'll go for a drive. All right, so this 6.9 is equipped with the Palomino or Saddle or Saffron interior. It has many different names. A good few shades lighter than mine. Mine has Brazil brown, which is more all like the dash on this one. But one of the best combinations of black on tan. And these front seats have been redone in the proper leather, so they are nice. The rear is still original, so the interior is where this one would take some work to get to the actual 100%. It is still very original at this point, which it is still in great shape for 157,000 miles nearly, and being 46 years old at this point. But let's go ahead and show you how it drives, because that is the best part. So before we drive off, I'm just going to share with you everything that we did mechanically on this car, because I need my cheat sheet here because it was that extensive. Starting with the suspension. When he first got the car, it was having trouble raising after it got off the transport. So we went through that whole entire system with all new accumulators. We had the rear leveling valve rebuilt because it was leaking. It's got fresh fluid, filter, and everything. We bled the whole system with fresh fluid, which it holds quite a lot of fluid. And did the washer fluid hoses, which I showed y'all earlier. It got all new belts. We also did the valve cover gaskets, did a new hood pad, straightened out the throttle linkage because someone had kind of tweaked that one. We did both upper control arms, sway bar link bushings. What else here? We did the rear shock boots, front shock ball joints. So on the hydraulic suspensions, the shocks actually have ball joints on the bottom of them. Both CV axles got rebuilt in the rear, or drive axles, however you want to call them. Rebuilt the steering box because it was leaky and had excess play. Did the idler arm bushings, did all the lower control arm bushings, including the additional subframe that is separate under there. Did a cruise control module because the cruise control was not working. I showed you the climate control module underneath. Adjusted the parking brake, replaced 2 of the vacuum door lock pods because the vacuum door locks were not working. The client on this car wanted everything to work. Had to lubricate the trunk latch, then a new oil drain plug because someone had kind of stripped that one out. We also fixed the sunroof because it was not operative, so that is working properly again. Did an ignition switch because it was all floppy and not working. A brake fluid flush, the coolant expansion tank, and then also both front calipers up front. And then from the owner of this car, my client has a lot of Mercedes, and he likes having the clusters rebuilt because he knows that the gears go bad on them and the odometer stops working. Whereas this one worked, he said, just go ahead and do it while we're doing everything else. So he is that kind of guy when it comes to doing the mechanical work. He wants them to be as nice as possible. So that's exactly what we did. Let's go ahead and get rolling. So one thing to note from previous ownership of this car is that the transmission has been rebuilt and it shifts very nicely. It was a little soft when we first got it, so we increased what's called the modulator pressure to make the shifts more firm. And again, we fixed that linkage and everything so that the shift points are also correct. And this is a specific transmission in the 6.9s, a 3-speed automatic. And first gear goes just about to 60 miles an hour, so a very long first gear. And just all the torque, you know, it can live happily under 2,000 RPM. And even at near 157,000 miles, it just drives so well. especially on fresh accumulators and everything. It is the proper way to experience one of these, because after about 5 to 10 years, they lose some pressure, and sometimes the diaphragm inside can rupture and they won't actually do their job. It'll make the ride very unpleasant, but this, especially on those XWX tires, it is just the proper way to feel one of these cars as they were in period. Any road imperfection, you just don't feel it. It just floats along, but it's floaty, but it doesn't wallow like an American car where the body just keeps rolling around. It just has that nice dip, and really it's just something you need to experience at least one time in your life, because I can describe it all I want, but just the serene experience that this is. And it's just, just one hand driving. Me, having driven mine at high speeds for very long periods of time, I can attest to that. I was able to sit at speeds we won't mention for hours on end, and it just feels totally normal, like you're doing this 50 miles an hour. And with it being self-leveling is even better, because you can add just about as much you want in the trunk, whether it's luggage or fuel, like myself, or any of the above. This is kind of known as a vehicle driven by people of malintention. So if something's in the trunk that you don't want to mention, it'll just look nice and level and no one will be the wiser. And then you have the power to get away too. This was, up there with exotic Ferraris and stuff of the time, especially once you get this big heft moving. I think it was around 7 seconds to 60, which was very impressive for the late 70s. But with that long first gear, it's once you get this thing rolling that it really shines and just has relentless power that pulls you all the way up to its about 140 mile an hour top speed in US trim. And then you get to be part of a very exclusive club. So only about 1,800 6.9s came to the US. There's a few more that are gray market cars and so forth, like the two we've got at the shop. But as far as the proper US cars, only 1,800. And part of that was because for the first couple years of the 6.9's production, they weren't actually exported to the U.S. because of the oil crisis and fuel crisis and of that time period, that they didn't think that the big monster 6.9 liter that gets about 8 to 10 miles to the gallon would be popular in the U.S. But it actually ended up being their most popular market. So it was about 8,000 total cars, which across a whole production of the entire 116 chassis is just a fraction. And really, anytime you see one of these, everyone, the first thing they're going to want to look for is that badge on the back, because there's really no other way to tell one apart unless you're lucky enough to see the suspension moving around. So here we'll go ahead and punch into the power. And while everyone's preference is the famed 300 SEL 6.3, I really think as time has gone on, I much prefer the 6.9 because of that high-speed prowess that it's got. The 6.3s are geared really short, and it's just an older style suspension system and everything that doesn't quite feel as planted at high speed. So this one just feels just enough modern while still enjoying that vintage experience. And I think the look is just classic and very aggressive compared to the older, 60s era Mercedes that were more bubbly. And, this kind of design language went on for many, many, many years. And really, this was a huge car for Mercedes-Benz. So as while the 300 cars back then were, they weren't full on like competitors with the big American sedans of the time period. Whereas the 116 chassis was really built for the American market to take on the big Cadillacs and Lincolns of the time period, because they were much bigger and more, American in that theory. The banker's hot rod, as they called it. And while being soft, it still handles well. The beauty of the European cars is being Autobahn bruisers. And these actually have great air conditioning too. But, you get nice cold. I'm sure we're probably running about mid 40 degree vent temperatures there, whereas the 6.3 systems were like this add-on system under the dash, and they were very noisy and not just not exactly what this is, you know. Just you set it to a temperature and let it do its thing, and you get to just enjoy the drive. Again, we said we pretty much fixed everything that wasn't working in this car. All the windows now work. Like I said, the sunroof, the vacuum door locks, the cruise control, so like every little thing. The suspension, the big one, so that this one is ready for many, many more years of enjoyment, because this guy took the brunt of the financial burden. Now the next guy gets to enjoy the fruits of his labor. These old automatics do like for you to tell them what to do, as they are old hydraulic automatics. Okay, so as promised, I'm going to show you the hydraulic suspension in the raised mode. So you pull the knob all the way out, and it's going to raise the rear first. And then the front. And then when I push the knob back to the normal mode, we go back down to normal ride height. So if you want to off-road your 6.9, you can do that with the raised height mode. So there it is, one of 1,800 US units, the 1979 450 SEL 6.9, and this one is currently no reserve on Bring a Trailer, like all of our listings are no reserve, going to their new owner. And like I said earlier, this one is mechanically ready to go. You get to enjoy the fruits of this client's labor by doing all the mechanical work for you. And if you want to do it perfect, you can go ahead and do the interior, because that is really all that is left. That and drive and enjoy it. But again, if you like what you see, like, subscribe, hit that bell icon, and we look forward to seeing you on the next auction.